These are violent criminals, so they're not going to go down easy.
ABC Tuesdays.
Let's get this done.
The Rookie is back.
We have 2 new rookies starting today.
Howdy.
Being a cop is stressful 24/7. Every year on the job is different.
And Training Day
We have a serial killer at large.
never ends.
We need an ambulance!
The Rookie. All new Tuesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Bored with your boring cardio? Stop pedaling that snooze cycle to Nowheresville and try some cardio that's actually fun. Supernatural Fitness, available on MetaQuest. Isn't that right, Jane Fonda?
Cardio will never be boring again.
Sweat to the beat of thousands of chart-topping songs inside stunning virtual landscapes.
Bet your stationary bike can't do that.
Visit GetSupernatural.com and join the next fitness revolution. Supernatural VR Fitness, only on MetaQuest. Rated Teen for Teen.
Earlier this week, I called up journalist Alyssa Jeong, who lives in LA.
Right now, I'm at my house in Los Angeles, California, specifically Highland Park.
Alyssa is a reporter and producer, and she's done some work with us here at Slate. These days, she's in sort of triage mode, helping friends and neighbors who've been affected by the fires. She remembers exactly when they started because it was right around her birthday and her mom was in town.
Around 7:30 on Tuesday, the lights went out. My power went out. We heard like a huge bang. My power went out and the winds were really gathering and we had flashlights and my mom and I are like, okay, well, maybe the power will come back on in like 30 minutes because that's usually what happens.
It didn't. So they went to bed, but that didn't last long.
I started getting smoke and I went outside and the sky was like eerie and there was like kind of like this hazy glow to it. And I was like, oh, there's a big fire.
And all over social media, Alyssa's friends and colleagues were talking about one app, the fire and location warning app, Watch Duty.
Everybody I know started downloading Watch Duty, so I downloaded that and I turned the alerts on because usually I have my phone on complete silent when I sleep. And I turned the alerts on and so it was just dinging every minute basically of like different fires going. It was like Palisades, Eaton, and it was like saying evacuation, go, 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 go.
Alyssa is safe, her house is safe, but like a lot of Los Angeles, she has been relying on digital alerts, not from the county, not from news organizations, but from Watch Duty. The app has been downloaded 2.5 million times in the past week, and it shows how, when it comes to natural disasters, the information ecosystem has changed.
I am on all these like Facebook neighborhood groups for like, buy nothing, whatever, and also I'm just nosy. A lot of people have questions and everyone says, download Watch Duty, download Watch Duty. Like, don't ask these questions here. You're wasting time and you're creating hysteria.
Today on the show, we are going to talk to one of the creators of Watch Duty and ask what it means that in an emergency, Angelenos are turning not to a public utility, but to an app. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states and situations.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists, like Kunle, put people at the heart of everything they create.
In the average household, there are dozens of connected devices. Here in the Comcast family, we're building an integrated in-home Wi-Fi solution for millions of families like my own. It brings people together in meaningful ways.
Kunle and his team are building a Wi-Fi experience that connects 1 billion devices every year. Learn more about how Comcast is redefining the future of connectivity at comcastcorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
Watch Duty was born from the personal experience of one of its co-founders, John Mills. Several years ago, he moved to Sonoma, California. He lived through 3 wildfires and found that he couldn't reliably track them in real time.
But he moved in and was like, this is what everyone deals with all the time?
That's Mills' co-founder and CTO, David Merritt.
You know, I'm on Twitter and Facebook, I'm seeing airplanes go overhead and I can't find any information. I guess I need to get a radio scanner. I can't believe people live like this. Not that people live there, but like that is the tooling that was available to people in wildland urban interfaces.
So in 2021, Merritt and Mills built Watch Duty. The app is free and run by a nonprofit, and the only information it requires is your location. Normally, I would enter my neighborhood in Brooklyn, but for demonstration purposes, I used my high school best friend's house in LA. The app shows me a map. I've got my friend's house marked, and then all the different active fires in and around the city. When I spoke with Merritt, my friend's house was right on the edge of a red flag warning from the Eaton fire, which means imminent danger of severe fire weather.
What we want you to see is where fires are relative to a map that you understand. And then after clicking into an icon for a fire, really a narrative and storyline of what's occurred. We want to give everyone the information that they need to make their safe, informed decisions. In certain fires, evacuation zones will be the thing that matters the most. In other cases, in more rural areas, it may be that they live with fire more often. And they're like, that fire is 20 miles from my house. But to me, whatever.
You can add different layers to Watch Duty, like showing air quality in different areas. But it also shows things like food and water distribution points, as well as animal shelters. And while I have been calling it an app throughout this story, you can actually do all of this on the web, too.
And we've been developing it really incrementally. It started out with just fires, just that base level of information, just the layers for MODIS and VIRUS, which are the satellite heat detection layers that some people choose to turn on. Then we added red flag warnings because that was a precursor to fires. People were already looking for that information. And one of our goals is to consolidate the context that may be required to make good decisions into a single place that's easy to use.
There are, of course, government evacuation alerts that people can sign up for on their phones, or maps on the web from the National Interagency Fire Center. But what makes Watch Duty unique is the way it tracks fire information from all these different sources in real time and confirms it with real people. They're surfing official websites, listening to scanners, seeking out and verifying real-time information, and putting it into the app. And many of them are retired firefighters themselves.
The reporters take it very, very seriously in terms of how they do the job. And I think that's generally been reflected in the accuracy and completeness of the reporting.
Humans are slower than automated processes. And yet there's been this huge push, obviously, in Silicon Valley to automate everything, to use machine learning to make it faster.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. Tell me why.
We enable the experts to be faster than they would be without automation. But the automation doesn't supplant the need for human verification. We also, last year we realized that reporters were having to refresh Facebook pages and Twitter feeds to get these updates from official government sources, because unfortunately they're only posting on Facebook now in some cases. And they were spending hours a day doing this stuff. So we automated that. It's like remove the tedious work and let people focus on the stuff that they're really good at. And I just think, there's all these discussions around LLM hallucinations and quality and all this stuff. And like, if it's life and safety, I'd much rather have people. It doesn't scale as well. It's the reason why we're not across the entire US yet. We don't feel like we have the size or experience to double the states in 1 year. But we'd rather be a little more slow and measured and have a little bit of this less magical scalability that everybody wants, because we realized that it's too important to think that we can just automate everything.
When we come back, just a few years ago, people tracked wildfires on Twitter. Watch Duty's rise is also a story about our degraded information ecosystem.
Bored with your boring cardio? Stop pedaling that snooze cycle to Nowheresville and try some cardio that's actually fun. Supernatural fitness, available on MetaQuest. Isn't that right, Jane Fonda?
Cardio will never be boring again.
Sweat to the beat of thousands of chart-topping songs inside stunning virtual landscapes.
Bet your stationary bike can't do that.
Visit GetSupernatural.com and join the next fitness revolution. Supernatural VR Fitness, only on MetaQuest. Rated Teen for Teen.
Hello, Slate listeners. This is Felix Salmon from Slate Money. I'm sure you've been seeing the headlines from Los Angeles, the wildfires there, the insurance situation there, the prisoners working on the ground as firefighters. So, what's really happening, and what are the implications of all of this? We just had an episode of Slate Money. It's called The Dire Costs of the LA Fires. My co-hosts Emily Peck and Elizabeth Spires and I talk through questions like why people are so fixated on the celebrity homes that have been destroyed.
I think people are focusing on celebrities right now, partly because the bigger macro problems are really overwhelming and terrifying.
Where California needs to go from here, and how we should be thinking about the use of inmates as firefighters, and whether this choice given to inmates is really a choice at all.
It's an offer you can't refuse.
Listen to The Dire Costs of the LA Fires on Slate Money today.
I asked David Merritt why he thinks Watch Duty has become a go-to source in this disaster.
It's being shared by family members. It's being shared by community members. It's being shared by media. But I think the explosion, and this has been true everywhere where our user base has grown, is because people see that they're given the information, that they're trusted to make the right decisions, that they're given information early and accurately, and I think that they can contextualize it. Some of the approaches, that traditional government approaches to notifying you about evacuations, they're really late in the process. If there's a fire 10 miles from my house, I would like to know when it starts, not when it's 5 miles from my house and I need to be evacuated. There's a pre-planning process that people need. They need to, or you're going to be a little more panicked. You need to figure out where your dog is. You need to get your stuff in order. You need to think through, do I need to leave? Should I go fill up the gas tank? There's 1,000 things that you can figure out if you're given more information earlier. And I think that's, one of the principles we try to go with is if we give people the right information, they'll make the best decisions.
I messaged with a friend of a friend in LA who said that the city alert was basically just like a thing on their phone that said leave now, but because he had Watch Duty, he was able to actually watch the fire approach his home.
And the other thing with text-based messages is, you don't gain any of that geospatial context. You don't understand all the other things. Here in San Francisco, we got a tsunami alert a month ago or so. I clicked on it and there's nowhere else to look. What she doesn't have an answer for that yet, but that contextualization of a very important message, everybody says, oh, what else can I look at? How can I find out more information? How do I understand how this is relevant to me? The traditional ways for that information to get out kind of lack that additional context.
I mean, isn't there something damning in the sentence that you just uttered, that the traditional ways of getting that information out lack the context? Like, in all things being equal, wouldn't it be nice for Watch Duty not to have to exist?
I think, we filled a gap that wasn't being provided. I think that there's a lot of very valid reasons why it's much harder for public organizations and public governments to do what we're doing. And I think the other piece that's really nice is that for us, we don't have to worry about coordination between states, And counties, we're just a service that's consistent across all of them. So, if you live between California and Oregon, you don't need to understand that there's two places to go. I agree that, we view ourselves as a public service. And traditionally, those are provided by the government, but at the same time, it isn't being provided in a way that's satisfactory. And, the firefighting agencies do a fantastic job of fighting fires. We have absolutely no criticisms. And it's challenging for them to have a full-time staff in little organizations. They might have one or two people that are supposed to send out information, but they don't have the tools that we've built. They don't have 25 people on the staff for when it's late at night, when it's early in the morning, when someone's on vacation. That's the other piece to this, is that, by doing it at a larger geographic scale, we're able to not have some of the challenges that local organizations and local firefighting agencies might have the same issue with trying to get information out.
You talked about trust, and I'm just spinning my mind back. I mean, if this had been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, Twitter, now X, would have been a reliable, verified source of information if you had, LA County's Twitter. Do you think the degradation of the information environment has made it more necessary to have something like Watch Duty? Could it have existed in the same way when it was easier to get the news on Twitter, on Facebook, on other platforms?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that internally quite a bit, because it's, we're all consumers of these platforms as well. And it's frustrating to see that everything is behind a login now, and especially frustrating to see that government officials are using these sources. Are publishing official updates on sites that require logins. I think that there still would have been a very important need for a specific platform, because even if you take away all of the challenges with how Facebook presents itself, you don't want a push notification and notification about a fire to be next to the notification that your friend's dog had a birthday. It needs a different sound. It needs a different, you need to be able to take that signal out of the noise. And I think that's really, even with the kind of privacy and publishing challenges that Twitter, X, and Facebook have right now, I think there's still that, it's okay to have a dedicated thing. And everybody wants to be a platform or the thing for everything, but
an everything app.
And in this case, it's it's okay to just have a wildfire app and a natural disaster thing that you can really trust, because it's just going to be better than a generic platform.
Watch Duty users can join a paid membership tier, but as a nonprofit, the app mostly relies on grants and donations, including a $2 million grant from Google.
There's no shareholders. No one has any stock. It's a nonprofit. Really, it's for the public.
Would you ever sell it?
No, definitely not.
So Microsoft comes and says, "Oh, you're nonprofit. You can make part of it a for-profit arm, and we'll give you a $10 million investment." Like, that scenario, the OpenAI scenario, is not for you.
Yeah, I think my friend, the CEO, John, actually recently just said, "We'll never pull an OpenAI."
Yes.
I just laughed at that. But yeah, no, I don't, there have been some examples recently where I've seen nonprofits and small things kind of really shift gears and be sold, but we're not in a position where that's going to happen. As much as it is a technology platform, it's also the reporters. It's such a unique partnership, and God, we'd have a revolt on our hands on the reporter side if that ever happened, because they're really dedicated to it. But no, we're not going to sell it. We're not collecting any data. So, we have a user base, but we don't have anything to sell besides the goodwill and the utility that we're providing.
It is not lost on me that some of what you were talking about used to be provided by local media sources. And it just makes me wonder if you have thought about the splintering of the information environment and why you are in the position that you are in, creating another platform as opposed to, trying to rectify, I guess, larger information sources or places people used to get reliable information. Like, what does it say to you that you've had to build something out of whole cloth to solve this problem?
In this case, I'm not sure that it's so much that we needed to fix the existing information. It's just that this information never got out to anyone in a good way, especially around fires where really minutes can make the difference between life and death. The traditional approaches just weren't good enough. I want to know right away that there's a fire 5 miles from my house. There really isn't time for traditional media even, or the traditional approaches. So, we had to build it ourselves, but it wasn't actually that complicated to build. It was more that we had a very focused understanding of the problem and weren't trying to do everything at once. Again, it's like, we understood it would be a partnership between tech and reporters. I think that was a unique approach that we took that no one else has done. But again, it's that, a lot of the people that are helping build the app are immediately in the face of this quite a bit. So we're building it for ourselves as well, and we understand what we want in our lives.
David Merritt, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Nice to chat with you.
David Merritt is the CTO of Watch Duty, and Alyssa Jeong Perry is a journalist in Los Angeles. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell, Patrick Fort, and Cheyna Roth. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Alicia Montgomery is Vice President of Audio for Slate. And this is Alicia's last week here, and I wanted to take a special moment to thank her for her leadership, her wisdom, and her friendship. Alicia, we are going to miss you very much. TBD is also part of the larger What Next family, and if you like what you heard, the best way to support us is by joining Slate Plus. Starting this week, we are launching some all-new bonus episodes for TBD. Extra content you can only get by subscribing to Plus. Twice a month, we'll sit down with some of Slate's best tech reporters and dissect the online discourse that is burning up our feeds. But here is the thing. These episodes will only be available to Slate Plus members. We'll give regular listeners a little free sample, but to hear the whole thing, you gotta subscribe. If you are not already a subscriber, try it out for free by heading over to the TBD page on Apple Podcasts and clicking Try Free. The discourse launches this Friday after your regular dose of TBD. We'll see you there. I am Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.